Thanks.
So we're talking about our integration product. So, the other day I was on a call with Dentrix, and I introduced us as their top integration partner, and they actually said, "No, Trav, you're actually our only integration partner." So we are Dentrix and Eaglesoft's only integration partner. Our code's been certified. The integration's been certified by both of those guys. Opendental, they don't have a developer program, so it's a little easier to integrate with them. Same thing with Dentrix Enterprise. And I'm not saying it's necessarily easier. It's just there's no cost and things like that with the Opendental integration. So there is a ton of information. If you go to DrDDS/integrate dental, click on that link up there. This page is packed with a lot of information. So I guess I'll just kind of roll down and go through each of them. So the first integration is $15K. Nino knows he's got preferred ability to defer that payment over time just because of our existing relationship. But if you do like Eaglesoft, let's say you start with Dentrix and then you add Eaglesoft, then it's $20K. Most of our customers, like we just signed up Teledentix down the street from you guys last week, and they did all four of our integrations, and they also did our Dentrix button product, which is an application that sits right in the toolbar in Dentrix that we could talk about later. But yeah, lots of customer testimonials. These are both replacements of Sika software, which is kind of our only competitor. I'll kind of let the customers talk about why they chose us over them. But I'll tell you, with Zanya from Golden Proportions Marketing, she said we saved her about $300,000 by using our product over their existing product, which was Sika. So a good overview right here, which actually I'm going to go through right now anyway. So you can take a look at the integration data field categories. There's only a couple things that we need from you to be able to get started with these integrations. Number one is we need an API key from Dentrix and Eaglesoft. Number two is we need to know what endpoint to send the data to. And number three is how often you want the data sent over. And then the fourth item and the final one is really, what fields do you want in your integration? And so this is a really robust list. We won't spend too much time because you guys can peruse this. I think from what I've heard from Nino, we've already got all the stuff that you guys need for your integration. So take a look at that. It's right under integration data field categories. There's a section called fields available, and the information's there. Talks a little bit about the application, right? It's a little widget that we install on the server. You have to log in as the admin for the dental practice that you're installing it. Install it. Normally for us, it takes about 2 minutes to do the whole process. Or we also give instructions like this sample kind of setup guide for what you might give a dental practice to be able to go in and say, hey, to turn on the 4Smile integration, you need an account, you need an address, you need to turn on the integration, and then on the server side, you log into their server. You can remote in. We use a tool called Splashtop to be able to do that. You download the syncer, you install it, you need a Dentrix passphrase, and then you need the username and password for your product, and that's it. So again, if all things go well, it just takes, it could take as quickly as 30 seconds. There's a lot of information here in the more info section where it has the practice management integration, talks a little bit about, the description of it, the different files that we create for you, how do we invoke it, how it's built, activating the integration, implementation methods, things like that. So quite a bit of information here. And then Martin also provided a link in the chat there that also gives you kind of samples of how we use the integration, how we use it for our own product. We've been about 150 different APIs, and let's just take one of these as an example. This is how, we've built our integration, our APIs that sit on it. So JSON and whatnot.
Yes.
So there's a lot in there. There's a lot of great training that you do need to actually join the developer program for Dentrix and Eaglesoft. That is something that we require. Right. Well, it's the only option. So, Martin built the Dentrix developer program, and they're trying to block everybody out of it to be able to find any kind of back door to get into Dentrix without using their API key. I hear of a couple people still doing it, but not many, right? And they're continuing to block them out. So here's a little video of how to set up the endpoints. Here's a sample of what the Dentrix button looks like. Here's a sample in here of how to set up an Eaglesoft install. There's quite a bit of information there. There's even more information, some other video clips that I'll send you. We just did an onboarding call with one of our customers on setting up their integration, kind of kicking it off for them after they paid. And then we have a lot of customer testimonials for this, a lot of people that use this. You know, we have 100% referenceability of clients that are using our integrations. And, you know, we have quite a few that are using it. So, you know, you can take a look at anybody on this list and give them a call as a reference. And, you know, they're all very happy with it. So when Dentrix and Eaglesoft find out that you're using us as your integration partner, it gets you typically to the top of their list because they trust that we know what we're doing. We've done this now 20, 30 times. And so instead of having to go back and forth and, you know, have the process take longer than it needs to, there's an application process, and I can send you a link to be able to apply. You do have to go through that, but then, you know, once you sign up and pay for our service, then I get you kind of on the VIP list is what I call it with those guys over at Dentrix and Eaglesoft. I mean, I have their personal cell phones. We talk, you know, quite often, well, pretty much almost every day. We're messaging each other about different clients and whatnot. So any questions on that?
Great. Thanks for the overview. And yeah, definitely, it seems like it was on the website. Maybe I got to the price and I stopped scrolling, but
it's very cheap.
You have to give us a discount.
You were shocked at how inexpensive it was, right? You're like, for all that code. So we literally give you about $250,000 in source code. So that's also, let me just kind of talk about a few other things, because here's a differentiator. So it's an actual license of the code, right? So you actually get your own instance. I'll just take Opendental as an example, right? What people love about this product, because you could definitely build these integrations yourself. I mean, it would probably take you 2 years to build what we've built, you know, because it's taken us much longer than that. The problem is you'll find all these little errors, all these little things that you get caught up on, and even, you know, back and forth daily. We have a Slack channel. So this is the code repository, right? So basically what I do is I share it with the customer, and then you get access to it. And then you can branch off and kind of build your own branch on that. Martin could talk a little bit more about that in a second. But what we do is we also, with everything we do, we build a community, right? So these are all the clients that currently are a part of the integration platform product for us, I should say. They're, you know, Mouthwatch, Dental Warranty, Zoob, Simplify, Dentulu. Well, Simplify is not using it. Dentulu, a few others, right? So these are the guys that are in there using it every day. And then what you do is this is kind of for the messaging to the large group. And then what we'll do is create a subgroup for you to be able to connect directly with Martin. So he was on a call a second ago with Dean right here from Teledentix as we're walking him through and holding his hand through the setup process of setting up the API for Teledentix. So, you know, we've gotten these guys up and running in the span of a couple of days. I don't know, Martin, on average, you know, maybe a week or 2 weeks. What would you say it kind of takes these guys to get up and running? Maybe I'm misquoting on the timing, but I know it's a much shorter timeline than if you were to try and build it yourself.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as the local code and capturing all the data and so on, it's plug and play turnkey setup. So you should literally have everything up and running within the local instance within a period of about 24 hours. Now, as far as getting the data to actually receive it and your end of the server aspects in order to actually receive that data, it takes a bit more time because in this case, you have to kind of implement our API to actually receive that. And that's what the RL help links and so on that I posted in the chat is most helpful for. is that you can see the exact format of the input data and responses that we expect in order to not have to change any code in the local syncer. Now, if you do want to change that so that you can actually say, no, I want to receive the data this way or whatever, then you would just have to change that and update our code on that local sync client. And then that would allow you to integrate with your existing endpoints if you have one that would facilitate the transfer and acceptance of this data.
Yeah, so what you're saying is we can change the fields in the JSON, like if we wanted to use a different naming format, nomenclature, we could change that.
Yeah.
And then we get a copy of the sync client, basically.
Correct.
And my other question about the sync client, since we're talking about that, you mentioned, Travis, you said like how often we want that data. Is it the case that, for example, you know, the office, let's say, enters a new patient, right?
Yeah.
Would we receive that data right away, or is it, you know, something that's, you know, it's running continuously, I assume, but is it a push or?
So what happens right now is that the syncer will automatically run every 10 minutes by default. So every 10 minutes, you'll get a load of patients or objects that have been modified in that last gap. And so when you need to write data back to the software, then there is a separate thing that you can use, so in other words, each 10 minutes, it's going to capture all the data from the software and then push that out to your web service. And then at that same frequency, it's going to pull from your server and say, hey, do you have any changes for me to write? At which point it will then write those changes. And there is a shortcut mechanism so that you can get effectively real-time write back utilizing WebSockets that is built into there. And we can discuss that in more depth, you know, when you're, if that's something or a need that you have.
Okay, so basically right now you're using some kind of polling, and then you guys have a WebSocket implementation also, and we would get access to that?
Yeah, so as of right now, we're utilizing a basic Firebase installation in order to facilitate our socket communication. So in this case, you would configure this to use their API, and then however you want to authenticate with them, etc. And then in this case, all we do is we actually publish a message in that pipe for the user, and we say, hey, there's something at the server. And then at that time, that socket, it fires an event in the local source code, which then goes and immediately does a poll. So it's not pushing data through the socket, but rather just notifying that there are changes that are pending.
There are changes, got it, okay, okay.
So that's the current implementation. And then obviously, you know, if you want to extend that, et cetera, then the source code's there and so on. So it's not too hard to do, so.
Okay, and so with the current implementation, as you've stated it, let's say we wanted to, because like one of the things you can do through the website is book an appointment with a dentist, right?
Right.
We book an appointment, they would show up in their appointment book right away if we use the socket version, WebSocket version?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, you would catch that back down within the local client in just a matter of like a minute or less. I mean, the socket is going to fire almost immediately. Now, if for whatever reason there was a disconnect in the socket, then it automatically reestablishes its communication on the next sync cycle, which is every 10 minutes. And so it checks the status of it each cycle, and then if it's bad, then it'll renew that socket. But supposing that socket is connected, it should be near real time.
Right. Okay.
And when you send down an appointment object, you can also send down like a patient object with it saying, write it for this patient. And even if that's like a new patient that has never been in the database before, et cetera, right? So you can handle new patient and or existing patient appointments. Now, of course, then though, that also depends upon your access level within the practice management system. So Dentrix, of course, is pretty limited on who they allow to access their appointment API. So, you know, depending, that is one of the main places we wrote it originally for that, but that was for our own purposes. But that said, that depends upon whether or not they grant that level of access to you. And so, you know, that kind of throws a monkey wrench at some people if you're unaware of that. The other system that you can write appointments in is Opendental. Both Dentrix Enterprise and Eaglesoft do not allow appointment write back.
So don't allow appointment write back.
They do not.
There are people that have gotten it, but we haven't had a customer that's been able to get it. It depends on your relationship with Patterson. You gotta get a little higher in the organization on that.
Wow, that's interesting. Very interesting.
Yep. So that said, most practice management systems are very closely guarding that appointment write back. And that said, the main one that we can write back to very easily in regards to appointments and that sort of thing is Opendental, because of course they're open and their source code's published, so it's not too hard to figure it out.
Okay.
Do you know why they do that? Why they don't allow it?
I think it's mostly competitive advantage. You know, they have their own products that serve those, and they don't want third parties in there playing in that bin, I guess. At least that's my understanding.
But if they sell the software to the practice,
I'm sorry?
If they sold if they sold the application to the dentist, and the dentist is paying for maintenance, to do whatever they want, why they limit that? You understand what I'm saying?
Well, and I mean, I think that, I mean, I can't answer that question for each practice management system, but in general, it's kind of about competitive advantage. If they already have a product that's utilizing that particular feature, then they'd like to capitalize on that before allowing any third party to capitalize on it. And if it's one of their main revenue generators, then they're going to be more, you know, less inclined to share that wealth with somebody else.
Okay. But we can do reads, right, for appointment data? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So.
Yeah, we can do all the reading you want. It's just when you want to do write back, that's where most of the are limited. So in Dentrix, you can relatively easily get access to write back to patient objects for patient demographic data. So name, birth date, you know, phone numbers, addresses, etc. All of that information is very easily and readily accessible and editable. But when it comes to moving into more of a business unit aspect, then they become a lot more, you know, hard-walled. So.
Okay. Yeah. What about the document center APIs for Dentrix, and what support do you guys have for that?
So as of right now, we don't have any direct integration with the Document Center API, but the Document Center API is not hard to implement. So if you guys know what it is you want to write to and so on that, it really wouldn't take a lot of effort in order to write back a document to a patient's Document Center. And that said, that one is relatively openly shared, so that one shouldn't be a big deal.
Okay, but that would be using the Dentrix API directly or through the Recordlinc product?
You can choose, right? So in this case, you can, the Recordlinc stuff, like I said, we don't currently have an implementation that writes that back. So if you did want to, we'd have to extend that functionality that talks to the Dentrix API on your behalf, which, you know, like I said, really wouldn't take too much effort. So it just depends on, you know, how you want to do it. So if you want to use our syncer and that push mechanism, it's already there. So you would have to write a whole different engine to talk to the Dentrix API, or you know,
no, of course, no. Like what I'm getting at is that we want to use the Recordlinc product. So if there's, you know, maybe as part of those support hours that come with the product, if you guys could maybe, you know, support us in like getting the Document Center API working also, because that's something that we do need to support.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay, good. Okay. The other question I had was regarding testing. So what do your clients do for testing? Like, you know, now we've got the integration set up and want to start testing it. Like, is there any test install with Dentrix or like, you know, even Opendental is kind of, you know, tricky to set up. You have to set up a server, you got to set things up. I mean, do you guys have some mock tests, for example, mock write backs or anything like that? Well,
there is unit testing built into the product for you know, especially around the write back functionality. And so on. But outside of that, there is, as far as I'm aware, there is no current VMs that you can spin up that already have this loaded on them or anything along those lines. And most of the reason behind that is that, like, for example, Dentrix, when you actually sign up for the DDP program, they give you a license key and serial number. And so you would actually need to install with their serial number and so on in order to get your database set up. And then, you know, that said, if it's keyed to that database, then the test would be largely worthless for most databases. So, no.
Yeah, okay. Short answer, no.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, just because, you know, might want to run some integration tests at some point.
Right.
And we have some clients that hopefully we'll be able to do that with, that are kind of working with us, that are
Right.
our beta people, and they can kind of help us with
Yeah,
that.
you'll want to set up your own instance of Dentrix, even for like demo purposes and things like that. You know, you're going to want to be able to show the integration sometimes to people. So
Yeah, we've been thinking about perhaps setting up a server that has Dentrix, maybe install Opendental, maybe install a few other things.
Yeah, exactly.
Be just testing things locally as before we, you know, deploy.
Good to have.
So,
yep.
Yeah. Document Center.
And that's exactly what I've got on my box.
Okay, great.
So,
Are you running this?
and I mean, if you need help setting up
are you
any of
just on a
them.
separate machine, or?
Yeah, I just run it on my local box.
Yeah, okay, great. Good to know.
I mean, I've got a virtual machine with each product independently set up so that I can test to make sure that the data is going through or that it's pumping properly, et cetera. But that there is no level of integration test outside of that monitor that data.
Yeah, okay, sure. No, it just be like, you know, an actual manual integration test, right? To, you know, put data at it and make sure everything's getting written to the database, and then it.
Now, I mean, that said, you could certainly write.
Like, for things like files and stuff, if we're going to do document center stuff, you know, making sure that whatever bits we're sending across are actually displaying correctly when they're loaded back up. It's like we're sending a, you know, a data stream or what have you. So, yeah. So just to, you know, we want to make sure that what the customer gets is correct and working and all that. So good.
Well, yeah, that's the beauty of this, is it's been, there's no other integration that's been tested and proven across more products than this one.
Yeah. No, good. I think that's all the questions I had. So the record link gets installed on the server. It does talk to our endpoint. Right now, the default is 10 minutes. And there is a WebSocket version that notifies that there's changes and basically initiates a sync. And so then things are read to the database and written to the database and read from the database. And yeah, no appointment, right back on Dentrix. And you guys will help us with the Document Center API. That's kind of my summary.
They need to change that 10 minutes to 5 minutes, or that's the
yeah. So it's configurable. So you can modify the sync time, whatever sync cycle you'd like. That said, anything less than 5 minutes, I wouldn't recommend, just because at that point you start to hound the database, especially if you use systems other than Dentrix. Because at least Dentrix, when you query the data, you have a modified timestamp concept. So every record has a modified time associated with it. So when we run our queries, we always say, give me only the records that are newer than this date of the last sync. And so that way we can keep the impact on the practice management system to a very limited set. But depending upon the total amount of data that you're capturing and so on, like for example, if this is your first sync, then that first data load's going to be hundreds of thousands of records potentially. And so that is all going to be pumping through that pipe. And so if there is a current sync running, the next sync won't execute until the prior one completes. So if you're running at a 5-minute cycle and your first sync is still running and say it takes 3 hours to complete, then at that point, then the second sync would finally start, and then presumptively it would then start every 5 minutes from that point forward. And then it would maintain that data integrity of the objects.
can we set it so it works only 8 hours or 9 hours and doesn't work during the night or weekend or anything like that? So it doesn't put too much load on.
Well, it's already designed to keep a very minimal impact on the customer's machine. So once it does start up, it does start capturing data. And that said, there is a standard delay time that you can modify in order to say, after startup, how long before I first start scanning, that sort of thing. But it is going to do an automated check for deletes and that sort of concept during the overnight hours to make sure that if there are records that have been deleted, that you get informed of those deleted records and that sort of thing. Because in that situation, Dentrix, of course, doesn't notify us that a record was deleted, but we have to scan and say, are all the records I'm aware of still there? And so we go through a process in order to validate all those records as well. But yeah, the impact can, on average, it does not impact the user as far as their usage of the software when you first install it, the way we've configured it. So those are the default settings. If you want to increase the speed or decrease the speed, then there are settings to allow you to do so.
How does Dentrix secure kind of security breach or anything that someone can access the customer's system and delete something or cause some kind of problem? You guys have some kind of firewall or some system to prevent that, or?
Well, I mean, the Dentrix database is it's a C-Tree ACE database system, and that C-Tree ACE database system, has a local username and password concept that is randomized for each installation of the software. So even if it's the same serial number, you'll actually get a unique password for every installation. And so that's kind of based upon the user's passphrase, which is decryptable only by that machine. And every machine, so the concept is that if you change your passphrase at your server computer, then all workstations would become physically incapable of connecting to the database because they don't know what the password is. Until you go to that computer and attempt to log in where it says, hey, I couldn't log in, maybe you changed your passphrase, or you can update it, at which point then it can attempt to log in again, and supposing it's correct, then it'll allow that, that workstation to log in. So from concept of how do I protect this box from outside actors, in this case, it sounds like you'd be more considering some third-party actor who's capable of using the user's desktop in order to manipulate it. But that to me is basically remote desktop and standard network security. So that's usually where I would lump that and put that as far as standard network security protocols for securing that data.
Yeah. Well, he was also, I guess, concerned about, since we're going to have the web app that's running and is talking to RecordLinc
Right.
or DrDDS, that there's no privilege escalation in the DrDDS, or that would, I don't know, give them some kind of, I mean, these are, I'm assuming Windows machines or maybe Unix machines, but that would give them any kind of shell or remote shell or anything like that.
No, none of that. I mean, as of right now, the only thing you can do is, messages down, right? So the only messages out are all the data pushing and so on going out of the box, right? And the only messages coming in are also the only inbound messages would be through the socket mechanism. And as of right now, there's only 2 messages that receives, and that's basically, there's data now available, go get it. And then there's another message that's published in the pipe saying, I got it. And that's really about it. So I don't see that there'd be any concerns there.
Yeah. And I think I already asked this question. Apologies if I wasn't clear on it. The API for each PMS, as far as RecordLinc is concerned, would be different, or it would be the same for each PMS? Do you know what I mean? Like,
So it is a unique plugin for each.
okay.
Yeah, so what it is that there is a main syncer project, which is the same across all products, and then you have a plugin which represents the communication method between each practice management system.
Yes, but like the fields that are represented in JSON, for example, you guys showed the
Right.
fields represented. Those
So
would be kind of standardized across the different
correct.
products? Okay.
Yeah, so what we do is we aggregate that data for you and put it all together in a common data format. If you want to see or change those in any way, then there are data objects that allow you to do that. So
That allow you
we
to
can
do
point that out when you're ready to look at that.
No, okay, that makes sense. Okay, because then we don't need to build like 4 different endpoints for the 4 different softwares, right? We can have one endpoint to manage all of them. Yeah, okay.
So there's no
Yeah.
problem with the scalability if you get 5 or 10,000 or 15,000 set up.
I think that would be on our end.
You get what I'm talking about?
Their software?
Yeah. Each one of these installed separately, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So the way this works is that you would have one installation of Recordlinc for each practice management system on an individual box. So so the way it is that it's single plugin in running, right? So you can't have 2 versions of Recordlinc in the same box communicating with 2 different practice managements at the same time. It's only key to talk to one practice management system at a time. So in your example previously that you mentioned that you actually wanted to have all 3 products potentially installed in the same box and have Recordlinc set up. Now, as a dev box, that's okay because you can manually swap out the files that are necessary to redirect to which plugin that you're currently looking at, and registering each one respectively. But as far as that, the software is key to only work with one plugin at any given time. So you wouldn't be able to do a partial install of Dentrix and Opendental within the same box or whatever right now.
Yeah. No, we might have some, VMs just on one machine and spin them up as necessary to cover that use case. But yeah, so great. Have you guys had other customers that have integrated with serverless and with Google Cloud Functions, or are you guys familiar with
in this regard, it doesn't change the way our product works.
What you guys are doing, of course. I'm just curious. Just curious.
I know at least one that has USA Dental.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like Martin said, it's an agnostic component of it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, it's standard. Okay.
Is ZocDoc is using your system?
No, they're not. I don't know what they're using.
They develop their own.
Yeah. They built it a long time ago. So yeah. So.
Very good.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, that's all for me. That's all the questions I had right now. And thank you guys. I think that answered most of our questions. So I'm going to go back to the website and plow through everything. And if anything else, other questions pop up, that I will definitely send them across.
Sounds good.
And,
yeah, lots of good information on there. And Nino, give me a call. We can talk about how we can make it work from a pricing perspective. I know people are conscious of all that right now, and we want to make this. I mean, you can see, how much faster and easier and less expensive overall it is to go with this versus trying to build it yourself. I mean, I guess you could pay yourself to do it, but you're not. It's gonna take you a long time to get it up and running. So.
Yeah, well, we like good deals. So
hey, it's not my first time hanging out with your buddy next to you over there. Yeah, I know.
He's not.
He got some of the best deals ever from me. So we'll continue that.
We're going to work together a long time. Does Amir has any question? Amir?
Hey guys, not at this point. I think everything is covered.
Okay.
So I don't have any questions.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.